Okay, part two, the Kukri for real. Okay, so you have your weapon. Okay, you know what your distance you want to try to attain. Okay, how do we go about doing that? Well, first of all, when you're using the weapon, again, don't try to just use your arms. You're not going to get much effect that way. Okay, it's rotational movements and the proper use of your feet that will allow, and your weight placement that will allow you to be effective here. Okay, every particular style has the way they teach you the basic cuts, but think more in terms of what you're trying to do with your body, positioning, and your weight, and the cut will be where it has to be. Okay, if I put a steak on a plate and I give you a knife and a fork, do you think you'll figure out a way to cut that steak? I mean, maybe you never even saw a knife before and you come from a culture that cuts the meat before they eat. You think you could figure that out? Okay? Don't put the cart before the horse, all right? The thing that's relevant here is putting the proper dynamics behind the cut so it's effective. This weapon has chopping and cutting, but for any of that to happen properly, your weight has to be involved in the cut. So, for example, when I'm practicing my cuts, okay, this movement is very important. And how I cut through the center line. My center line and my opponent's center line should be your measures, okay? So, looking at my center line, if I'm making a cut here, I have my rotational movement, I have my deflectionary movement, okay, to a cutting movement, so I don't have to think about whether I'm defending or I have to retreat. I'm just boom. Anything that comes this way, I'm protected, and then I'm moving rotation. Now, how can I make that more effective? One way is if I have the opportunity is to step with, in this case, my left leg, if I have the weapon in my right hand, which allows me now to cut through that imaginary center line of my opponent and using my own center line as reference, okay? So here, boom, okay? If I want to cut the other way this way, okay, same idea. I could come here, but if I take that step, now I've cut through and I have more weight and a little bit better distancing on my cut, okay? You want to cut from right where the blade forms the leaf, okay? This little area here is good for trapping and for hacking, okay? But for your cutting, you want it to start right here. So you want to imagine that this is coming right through the center line and into the area that you're cutting, okay? You can variate those cuts. Your basic is here, down, coming up, coming straight, okay? Coming across, okay? You can take a diagonal cut, okay? But on all those cuts, the thing you want to be aware of is how it's most effective and when you want to do a particular cut. So if I'm going back, I can do smaller cuts to protect the area that I want to attack, okay? Or to protect myself against an attack. When I come past that, okay, past these smaller typing cutting movements, okay? Notice full body rotation here, right? If I'm gonna try to cut here, boom, I wanna really turn into the cut. Come here, okay? I can step in, come here, all right? The strength of those cuts will depend a lot on how you are in relation to your target. So if I'm here and I initially do something cut an arm or a leg, okay? And then come into the center. This is coming right up, okay? I want to try, if at all possible, to catch this area at the last part of the cut, okay? So this is held a little bit down so that it can catch this, okay? If I'm catching this, think about the points of the weapon. This part here, if you're hitting the collarbone area, okay? Boom, that's a break, okay? If you're cutting this, not hitting the collarbone, but cutting the mastoid muscles and the arteries on the side, then you're cutting from up here, okay? And you're pulling the blade back slightly, okay? And again, not trying to do this, okay? Using your rotational movement and pulling the weapon back to your own center line. So here, you can very quickly protect yourself after the cut, okay? And during the cut. 1, 2, 1, 2, okay? I can do that with a movement. I can do it just with a cut. If I do it with movement, I want to always try to profile because I don't want to give my opponent a target when I'm cutting, okay? So this illustrates the difference between hacking and cutting, okay? Anything here behind the jawbone is soft tissue. Any bone is for this, if you can. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't be effective with this, but this will be more effective and it will give you a little bit more follow-through on the hacking movement. When you do hack, the more effective you will be depends on where your weight is. So if I do something like this, we used to do this in the Bujinkan years ago in the Kukri Ryu, and they stopped doing it. They don't do it anymore. I haven't seen it for years, but just total weight placement. I'm taking my feet, I'm just turning my entire body. I'm here, boom, okay? Coming up, boom, boom, boom. Okay, those are whole body movements. And they're very effective because I'm transferring my entire weight into the movement of the cut, okay? Keep in mind what you're doing. If I'm on these targets, I'm trying to make a cut, boom. And as soon as I make that cut, I want to try to get into a profile position, okay? And don't think about going back from here. Think about either deflecting or going forwards, okay? Which gets into that reverse again. If you're here and you're reversing, you have this coming forwards, okay? When you come forwards, this for this, if you're attacking the ribs, sides, because you want to slide between the ribs, okay? So if I'm hitting to the ribs here, if I'm hitting higher than the ribs up into this area, then more like here, okay? Other things that are relevant about the weapon. This is called the Shivalinga, the penis of Shiva, and it's also used as a blood groove, okay? So you can literally take blood and flick it as it comes into this area, okay? That's what this little W is, okay? We talked about the shape of the weapon. You also have another groove here. Keep in mind that a lot of the effectiveness of this weapon is tied up in the weight. So if you keep your proper body dynamics and you control the weapon, you'll do much better than if you try to use the weapon like a lot of people where you just do these fast cuts, you know. It's not designed for that, okay? It's designed to hack off. When you hack, if I'm here, again, think about hustle, okay? Come here. Just like when you're stabbing here, not up here, okay? So that when you're doing that, here, and you're not telegraphing, here. If you want to make a cut here, here, okay? If you can make the whole body movement, Try to be coming into this position, because this is a weaker position than this. Okay? I might try to cut to the side of the head here. Boom, okay? I might then try to cut either straight down or to this side, okay? As I do that, I'm right there. I don't have to make any adjustments. Okay, we'll do one more with concluding thoughts here.